Hello. In this session, I'm going to show how to create test cases for eBusiness Suite. So first, we're going to log into Aura Service Manager. On the left-hand side, we're going to go to Aura Tester. In Aura Tester, we manage all the test cases that we create. And here we have test cases and test groups. So first, let's create a test case. We'll click on the green button. There are two options to create a test case, either from existing service. I can select services that I pre-recorded, or to create a new test case, record a new test case. So let's start by recording a new test case. That would open our recording toolbar. We're going to enter the service name or the test case name that we're going to create. Let's say get item info or query for item. And we're going to enter here the full forms URL. That's the full forms URL of eBusiness Suite. So let's click on begin. When we click on begin, eBusiness Suite would open with directly to the specific form that we want to record. Let's wait a bit. And we got the form opened. Now I'm going to enter the username and password. Both of them would become input parameters to the test case. Now every field that I set would become input parameter to the test case. I'm going to enter now the organization. Let's enter M1 and click on find. I entered the name in the LOV, so if there's personalization and different users would have less options, so I prefer to search for this organization and click on find, and that makes sure that I'm going to get to the right place. Now I'm going to search for item that begins with 1 and with the person description. I can have more details. Let's click on check quantity and find. When I click find, I would get the item details. I'm going to click on the item. That would ensure that I'll get the item in the output parameters, the description, organization, etc. I'm going to click on all the fields. Every field that I click on would become an output, a response from the web service inside the test case, so I can perform validation on that field. Let's stop here and hi, I'm going to show Hello, today we're going to show how to perform to create test cases for eBusiness Suite. So first we're gonna open the Service Manager. This is our Aura Service Manager, and we'll go to Aura Tester on the left-hand side of the screen, and we'll click on the plus sign to create a new test case. Now when we create a new test case, we can either create a test case from existing services, in which we have to go and search for services and create test cases from them, or we can record a new test case. So let's just record a new test case. When we record a new test case, we have to enter the test case name. Let's query item and enter the full URL of the service of the form. Hello, we're going to show how to create test cases on eBusiness Suite. So first we're going to open the Service Manager or Player Service Manager, and we'll click on the Aura Tester, which is on the left-hand side of the screen on the menu bar. Now, this is the Aura Tester. There are two tabs here, the test cases and test groups. The test cases are all the test cases that we created, and the test groups are groups of test cases to run. Now, we'll start by clicking on new test case. And here we can create a test case from existing web service that already exists on our system. So here we can either write this service name and it would be filtered, or we can do it by recording a new test case. So I'll click on recording a new test case and a dialog would be opened. In here I have to enter the test case name, that would be query item, and enter the forms URL. The forms URL of the eBusiness Suite form, it would open directly the form that I'm trying to test. Now, I clicked on begin, and now the forms would open. Any field that I'll enter would become input parameter. Any field that I'll click on would become focused, and focused would become output parameter. So there are two kinds of fields: input to start the test, and output to perform validation on. So let's enter username and password. They would become input parameters, and they can be either static or parameterized from a file. Next, I would enter the organization. This is a list of values, but I won't click on the value itself. I'll click on find. So if there are personalization and people have different lists or smaller lists, so it won't find the organization according to its location on the list of values, but according to the name. So I looked for M1 and now it's going to M1. Let's look for item, specific item. I'll enter 1% with specific description. In this case, it would be all descriptions. And I'll click on find. Now, when I'll click on find and I got the screen, I want to, up until now, there were the input parameters and the process ran. Now I want to perform validation on the responses. So I'll need to click on fields so they would become output parameters. So we have here the item, description, organization, and that. Okay, so that would be the end of my recording. So I'll go back to the service manager. I'll stop recording. Let's hear that. And a web service, a test case would be created. Now we have to fill in the fields. Okay, so first I want to create a positive test. So the positive test would be the test would be able, or would find the item and would give me the correct results. So first I entered the test case name. The response would be either JSON or XML. I'll keep it as JSON. Response level is either error or debug. When it's error, it would just tell me if it's successful, just give me the response time, and if it fails, it's going to show me why it fails. And regarding debug, it's more detailed mode, would show me all the fields that we sent and all the fields that we received. So let's start by doing errors. The parameter file is a file with fields that I can use inside my input and output parameters. For now, I'm not gonna keep. I'm gonna use a file. I'm gonna use static variables, and in here also in the input parameters, there are the fields that we recorded, which are username, password, etc. And there's also the URL. The URL in here is for, again, parameterization, so I can record on one server and test 5 servers, and that could be one of the parameters of the test. Now let's look at the fields in the output parameterization, and I'm going to perform validation on them. So it would be enough to make sure that there would be an item name. So I'll click on that field and I say, okay, I want to make sure that the response is not empty. It's going to fail if the response is empty. or I can make sure that it contains specific value. So let's make it fail if it's not empty, and click on save. Another validation that we can make is the timeout. So the test would not run more than 5 seconds. So I'll save it, and now we have a test case. Let's run it just to make sure that we get the correct response, and it was successful and ran in 776 seconds. Now this test case can be exported into JUnit, and in JUnit you will see, let's open it, the same validations that we did, the same configuration that we did written in JUnit, so we can run it in JUnit. Another thing that we can see in the test case, it has an API to run. So you can run this test case from continuous integration system or from any system that you use for testing, and we can see that we get exactly the same results. We got the JSON saying success plus response time. Okay, now let's duplicate that test case and create negative testing. Okay, so let's duplicate that and create negative testing. This time I'm going to have a response level debug because I want to see all the input and output values, and I don't want to find any field. So let's say the mask would be DDDD. And again, the correct response would be that the response should be empty, and we should have in the status bar something FRM something not found. Fail if response does not contain FRM. Save. And again, 5 minutes is enough. Let's save and run it. Okay, let's see. Okay, the test failed. Those are the input parameters. Okay, this field that is a value, that's why it failed. Okay, this is the URL that we were using, username, password, etc. And we got FRM, that's correct. But we also got response in the output of this field. Okay, let's fix that. Make sure we have FRM is good enough. Okay, and create the test case. And run it. Okay, we have success. Now we have two test cases, one negative and one positive. Let's create a group from those test cases. Okay, let's call it new test group and call it item. And save. Now I can run this group, and again we have a URL to run this this group. We have an API specifically to run this group. Let's run it from your continuous integration system, and okay, the status of the entire group run is successful. The response time is 1500 milliseconds, and we can see on every test case, was it successful and how long did it take? Now let's go to monitoring agent. Monitoring agent enables us to run the test cases every 10 minutes, 30 minutes, or 24 hours. The use case for that is so I can continuously test my servers and make sure that my servers are running properly. Make sure that they function properly and they run within my my SLA. That the response time or the action of logging takes less than 5 seconds, or querying for item is faster than 5 seconds. Moreover, I want to make sure that if there's any slowdown in my system, I want to get notified. So that's why I can create new test cases, test agents, select my existing test cases or the group, the entire group, and run them. Let's use that, and run it every 10 seconds, 10 minutes or more. Let's edit that and run it every 30 minutes. Save. And of course I can add mail recipient in case there's error, so I'll get email plus description to okay. So now I've configured my new active monitoring, my monitoring agent. It's going to run every 30 minutes. The entire test group is going to run every 30 minutes, and I'll get notification if there are any errors. Okay.